If you're in the market to buy a property, whether it's for yourself or as an investment, one big question you're probably having is how do I not overpay for that property? Especially right now in the shifting market where some people are a little uneasy, they're not sure what to think. Here are my top 3 ways to make sure you don't overpay for that property. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Conor J. I'm a realtor here in Tampa Bay in Florida, and I'm going to give you my top 3 ways to make sure you don't overpay for a property. There are going to be more, so feel free to comment down below if you've got one as well. And if you have any questions, make sure you do that too. Number 1, use escalation clauses. And I'm going to give you an example to illustrate what I mean. Let's say there's a home that is listed at $475,000. And let's say you're willing to pay up to $500,000 for that home. But you're not really sure if another buyer is willing to pay that much, and maybe they're only actually willing to pay like $485 is the next best buyer. So instead of paying $500,000, you'd rather just pay, let's say, $486 to beat them out. But obviously, you don't know what their offer is. So how do you figure that out? What an escalation clause is it allows you to put an offer in, let's say, for this $475,000 property at $480,000. But you're willing to pay up to $500,000 if the seller can present you a bona fide, which just means a legitimate offer above yours, and you'll beat that offer by, let's say, $1,000 or $2,500. Let's go with the $1,000 for the example. So you put in the offer at $475,000, you offer $480,000, and you have the escalation clause up to $500,000. Let's say another offer comes in at $485,000. Well, then your offer automatically will be adjusted $1,000 above that to $486,000. Now, if someone offered $510,000, your max is going to be at the $500,000. So that's one way to make sure you're not offering well above what the next best offer is. Number 2, don't waive these 2 contingencies. Number 1, your appraisal contingency, and number 2, your inspection contingency. You don't want to waive your appraisal contingency because then you're really relying on your real estate agent to know exactly what they're doing in terms of pricing to make sure that you're not writing this unknowing blank check for a certain amount. And what I mean by that is if you say, I'll buy that $475,000 home for $500,000, we'll waive the appraisal contingency. If there's a little bit of a gap, let's say it's a $25,000 gap, or maybe it's $10,000 or whatever it is, I'll make up the difference in cash. The problem is what if the gap's a lot bigger? Then you're really risking that earnest money deposit you put down in the beginning, and you don't really know how big of a check you're writing. Instead, what you do is offer an appraisal gap, which just means, let's say I'll pay up to $10,000 above what the property appraises out at if there's a difference between what I offered and what the appraisal price is. So if you offer $500,000, it appraises at $480,000, well then you'll pay up to $490,000 for the property. That way the maximum amount in which you can pay over fair market value, which is the appraisal value, you're in control over. And you can say $10,000, you can say $5,000, you can say $100, whatever you want, but you're in full control. Second, you don't want to waive the inspection because you could come up with some serious issues. Maybe there's a serious foundation issue, a serious issue with one of the major systems that might add this huge financial expense to the deal, which really changes the numbers. And if you're not accounting for that big financial expense, then you're kind of overpaying for the property. Don't waive the inspection contingency, just make it shorter and make sure your real estate agent does not recommend that because that's not great advice. And third, look for a value add wedge in your purchase. If you buy the property that's completely brand new or completely remodeled, there's really no value add wedge unless it's like some rental property that you think you can boost rents with and increase the cap rate on. But if you're just looking at it for yourself as a single family purchase, for example, for you to live in, look for something that maybe needs a little bit of work, something that, is priced properly. So it's priced according to the work it needs. And then after you put that work in, it's worth a lot more than what you bought it for and the amount that the work costed. So if you bought it for, let's say, $300,000, you put in $25,000 of work, now the home was worth $375,000, you now have a $50,000 value wedge that you just added for yourself, which made sure you didn't overpay for the property, and now you've got a lot of great positive equity. So if you're willing to put a little work into the home, look for a value wedge opportunity. So there you go, guys. Those are my top 3 ways to make sure you don't overpay for a property. Number 1, use escalation clauses. Number 2, do not waive your appraisal or inspection contingency. And then number 3, look for a value add wedge. If you have any others, comment them below because there are loads more and I would love to hear what your strategies are. If you have any questions, drop a comment below too and I'll be sure to answer them. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I make more videos just like this, super easy to understand, nice and straightforward, and without all the BS. But that's it for me today, guys. So until next time, this is Conor J. Have a blessed day.